Hello, everybody, and welcome to CT Politics TV. My name is Dan Newmeyer, and I own the CT Politics TV channel, which streams live 24/7 on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. You can also watch on ctpolitics.tv. And uh, tonight's guest is going to be Representative Tim Ackert on the half hour. But the Connecticut General Assembly session starts tomorrow. So all the representatives and senators and even the lieutenant governor I was speaking with today via text and phone and setting them up to be part of the broadcast. We seem to be having some internet issues, so hopefully this is coming through to you, and I'm not going to talk for an hour by myself. But you never know with internet TV. I want to talk a little bit and introduce you to what we're doing here at CT Politics TV. I've been in politics now for over 3 decades, and I've worked for both parties at one time or another, and most recently with the Independent Party this past year. I worked and was trained by the public unions for politics and worked for the Connecticut State Employees Association under a grant from SEIU, which is Service Employees International. So during that experience, I sat in all the union meetings and helped vet candidates and helped run campaigns and do field operations statewide and worked on many campaigns over that time. Then I left to run a construction business. And when the big crash came a couple of years after, I got back into politics and I worked for the Republican side because I felt things were kind of out of balance. And in 2015, I flipped the entire city of Norwich Republican, which had never been done in the state of flipping a city. And then worked hard at trying to get people to understand issues and understand the Republican perspective, or what I call the Connecticut Republican perspective, which is a fiscally conservative social moderate, which is what I am. I consider myself a progressive Republican. We all know how this past election cycle turned out, and I was not happy with the candidates that were put forward or with the CT GOP for many various reasons. And I think a lot of people were frustrated with the lack of political civility and discourse that happened. But over the past 4 years, since 2018, when I left my CBS radio show on WJJF, which was the #1 political talk show in Connecticut, and I did that for 3 years, I started to dabble in doing these podcasts with this new medium where we could, go and stream live onto Facebook and the social media, different social media there. And I was using Facebook as the main page where I would do this from. And about 2 years into it, after spending quite a bit of money on boosting different shows and advertising with Facebook, they decided that I had violated the community standards somehow, though they had taken my money for 2.5 years without any problem, doing the same exact thing, interviewing people on politics. And they never really give you a reason why. They just kind of boot you off and they say, look, you can still have your page, but we're just going to disable any reach it has. Well, like many of you out there who may have been shadow banned or the same thing happened, you got kicked off Facebook for something you were, and we're supposed to be living in a country of free speech. So all these things kind of grind on your gears, right? I decided I needed to find a way around that. So I created a website with my dear friend Rich Conway of WCCC fame, uh, helping with the Howard Stern show way back and doing promos, and television syndication, which is what you see here. So we've created this website where they can't shut us down, right? Well, they probably can if they need to, but they haven't yet. So it's a place where we can go um, uh, and I can talk to you. I can bring on state representatives, senators, the governor, lieutenant governor, like this Monday, and ask them questions and get a feel for what their platform issues are going into session, what types of maybe taxes might be coming our way, or tax relief coming our way. But it's a serious attempt to bring everybody together. And you're like, for God's sake, Stan, why would you want to bring us all together? We're fighting with each other. Well, what I've found is that most people, if you bring them into a room together and you start to talk about issues, they kind of abandon the crazy fringe rhetoric, which is all too common on social media, where we're really ripping each other apart on different issues, and people are incensed. And then you have a whole bunch of people who like to um, be anonymous in social media and hurl some pretty tough comments at people, and that doesn't help the situation, right? It's tearing us apart and tearing us down. Meanwhile, we have all these serious problems that we're trying to negotiate, and what's the answer, right? What is the answer to it? Well, I kind of thought back about how it used to be when I grew up, where we would kind of watch the news in the evening, and it came from generally one of the big three networks, NBC, ABC, CBS. And we'd get a perspective from that. We'd go out maybe to the bowling alley, the bar, or have friends over who were of a different political persuasion than us, and we would talk about these issues together. Maybe have a couple of beers or some food. But at the end of the night or day, we would go home and think about what the other people said. And it wasn't contentious to the point that we couldn't talk to each other, that we couldn't go and have Thanksgiving dinner, that we, gave up our Uncle Bob because, he's a Trump guy, or I can't talk to the liberals anymore because, they're just out of their minds, or all these kind of things that get us to shut down, go off into our little camps and get tribal, right? We're living in these bubbles where we're seeking out people, a natural thing to do, confirmation bias, where we're trying to confirm what we already believe in messaging through others who believe the same as us. And a lot of these techniques are Marxist, and or are like psychological warfare is distributed by militaries, right? And there's foreign actors, and there's people within the country that spew this stuff out, and that adds to the mix. And we can all see kind of what happened with the the election, and the election denying, and all of that stuff is exacerbated by Russian bots, or Chinese, or bad actors in general, who want to destabilize us, right, and want to drive us apart. But here on the home front, and in reality, all politics is local, right? And that means that your city government, your state government is run by people that you may know pretty well, or at least could go meet and talk to if you really were earnest about your situation. These people are accessible to us, right? And at the higher levels, their time is pretty sewn up. So A lot of these people I've met over the years on both sides of the aisles are good friends of mine, and or good acquaintances, and we've worked against each other, we've worked for each other, um, all in the hopes that we elect better leaders who are reflective of Connecticut values and what we're seeking to do, which is to solve problems. And in my opinion, most Connecticut people are socially moderate, fiscal conservatives, right? We want value for our money, but here in Connecticut, we want to take care of problems and solve inequities where we can. The degree to which we do that is always what's up for debate. So back to what this channel is about. The channel is about bringing people with, just like you and I, together to do a couple things. One is first to read the headlines. Actually, I'm just going to put the headlines up here for you. Tonight, I'm not reading the headlines. I'm talking to you. There we go. So this is the second show of our new revamped, new set show. But it's to bring us together, people of different backgrounds, to do a couple things. One is first, I'm telling you right off the bat that I am a progressive Republican or a centrist Republican. We have a couple other anchors on here too. We have the great Jimmy J, who was on last night and did a great interview with State Rep Harry Aurora. And they had a great time together, and it was a big success. So we're very happy about that for our launch. And Jimmy J has some really good guests that he's bringing on, and that he will be the anchor of. We have Joe Aguirre, the great Joe Aguirre, who is a center left, right? I'm center right. Joe Aguirre is center left, or as I say, center wrong. Just kidding. But Joe was a Republican, and he switched over to the other side because he didn't like what he was hearing, and he felt that the leadership was better over there. I was a former Democrat up until 2011, and I switched teams and started to work hard for the Republican side. So you have Jimmy J, who is a former Marine and a hardcore conservative, but he's a compassionate conservative. He wants Republicans who want to work together with everybody, who want to lead everybody, to be part of the conversation and not be part of the group of Republicans who don't want to talk about it anymore or don't want to have a civil discussion. And that's pretty reasonable, right? To want that. But on any issue, whether it's guns or abortion or everything, Jimmy's going to side with his Republican conservative roots. That's who he is. But he's telling you that, and I'm telling you that up front, right? He's a conservative. I'm a progressive. Center right, right? I'm a Republican strategist, right? A Republican strategist. Can you believe it? And then Joe Aguirre is a huge media personality, taught at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting for decades. And Joe is getting a little bit of work done on his ticker in the hospital, a little follow-up visit there. And he will return to the big chair hopefully Tuesday, I think, if not sooner than that. So we wish him good health. And the other wonderful person we have who designed this great set here is the amazing Dr. Amy Chai, who you might have recognized by her 3rd district run, where she flew an airplane. She had an airplane fly a banner circling New Haven, and she had a big neon sign on her car. And she really worked hard to put out a independent view or vision for Connecticut and for the 3rd district to replace Rosa DeLauro, who's been there for 17 terms, right? And a lot of the problems there existed. So Amy ran a really hard-fought campaign that I was fortunate enough to help consult on. And she hit her benchmarks in terms of an independent run, in terms of percentage, and has really spun that into a great way of outreach to continue on helping her district with her new show that's coming out. So we'll have to check that out when she's ready. But Amy will also join us with an independent libertarian view. We're also vetting a couple of Democrats and Green Party members who can do the same thing. And so what is the thing? Basically, we're going to come on at 5, Monday through Friday, and from 5 to 5:30, we're going to read the Connecticut headlines, political headlines of the day by our wonderful, great journalists and our news outlets across the state. Many of these journalists are my friends who I work with when I'm doing politics, and we work kind of symbiotically where I really rely on good, solid reporting to be able to make decisions on campaigns and strategy. So they're a very critical part of what I do in politics. And that's why I really give them props and encourage journalists at every turn or to become journalists, like the great Ginny Monk. She's a young journalist who's really killing it out there and bringing us really great stories that are very balanced, in my opinion. So one of the issues that we've had is that people don't feel that the journalism is, that the journalist potentially has some kind of agenda, right? And yeah, I suppose that happens, but for the most part, the big journos that we know here, the really great ones in the state, they're giving it to you balanced, and you might not like what they told you, and it doesn't fit with what the narrative is, or maybe they're not investigating something that you think should be investigated, and they have their reasons why that is. But over my time in politics doing this kind of stuff, I've found that the news is more balanced locally with local journalisms. I'm not talking about the big Fox thing or anything, but most of the writers, and if you go to a liberal college and you get a liberal arts degree, I suppose you're going to lean a little bit that way. But if you take somebody like Ginny Monk, who writes the CT Mirror, if I started to go down one after one side, she would give me the counterpoint and say, well, this is why the other people felt this way about the issue, right? And that's so important, right? Is that having that balance of saying, look, here's the two camps, or here's the issue for and against, and this is why these people feel this way, and that's why these people feel the other way. So we're not journalists here. We're just regular people who I'm involved in politics, obviously. Joe is a great talk radio guy and a DJ on the big stations, big hits, big shot here in Connecticut for decades. Jimmy J works at a radio station in Hartford. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but he does a great job there. And so Dr. Chai obviously is a doctor, 3 types of doctors, but we're all coming at this from our own perspective. So the goal is to read you the headlines from 5 to 5:30, with you knowing, okay, tonight it's Amy, so she's an independent, or hey, it's Jimmy, the Marine, right? He's a conservative. And then we can listen really carefully to the headlines and see if any of us are spinning it, right? And we're not gonna. We're just gonna try to read the headlines from the great journalists, and let you decide how you feel about those stories, right? You can look into them more. You can go to our news partners out there, and we hope to give that we're always giving props to our source media outlet, and also the journalist who really worked hard to get that news together for you and for me. So we want to make sure that 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 you know that who's reading you those headlines is a conservative, or is a liberal, or is a Democrat, or is a independent, or is a libertarian. And then when you listen to it and you say, okay, those are the headlines. This conservative Republican just told me the headlines and didn't editorialize at all on it, just read you the headlines. Okay. What could be wrong with that? Well, maybe you'll find something wrong with the story and you'll blame, the person who wrote it or whatever. But here is one of your people, if you're a conservative or if you're a Democrat, here's one of your people reading you the headlines. They invite their own guest on, could be a conservative, could be a Democrat, could be anybody in Connecticut politics that's involved in state issues, issue groups, or whatever. And in the second half an hour, from 5:30 to 6, you get an interview with the host's guest. And you're going to, at that point, you're getting a conservative talking to a Democrat, or a conservative talking to another conservative, or whatever the case may be. And if I'm talking to him, well, Dan's a progressive Republican or a rhino, really innovative, needed opportunities, right? And so that's my perspective coming at it. And you can say, all right, well, that's the rhino perspective, but I might have asked this or that or the other thing. Nobody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes and oh, I'm a Democrat, and oh, I'm so offended by this, or whatever the case is. Nobody's trying to do that to you, right? We're trying to say, look, here's the headlines, right? And here's our guest, and this is a conservative, a Democrat, a libertarian, an independent, a progressive Republican like myself, a center left guy like Joe, center right like me, reading you headlines and then interviewing a guest from that perspective. So out there certainly are conservative people who love Jimmy J and what he does. And they're going to say, you know what, Jimmy J is going to ask the questions I want to this guest. And I know Jimmy's a conservative, so I feel good about that, right? Now, I might not ask everything you want, but it's not some talking head there who's pretending to be this or trying to sell you that. We're not trying to sell you anything, unless you want to buy an ad. We're selling those. So what we're trying to do is to get the conversation going again and get people together and talking about this. So we have some really great guests coming up. Monday is Susan Beisowitz, and I've known Susan for much longer than she is old. I think she's 27 years old, and I've known her for over 3 decades, right? I'm not sure how the math, it's the Common Core math. It works if you use Common Core. But Susan, when I worked for the Democrats, she was Secretary of State, and so I had lots of opportunities to run into her, and I really enjoy her as a politician. She's very savvy. She does a good job for her team. I think I would have preferred Susan to Ned, frankly. And when they kind of pushed her over to LG from Ned to get Ned the self-financier in, I didn't care for that too much, because I think that Susan's very competent in making decisions. The unions who she deals with and has a good relationship with, probably felt that Ned was a better fit for them, or they could use that money to get this done. And that's not right. I think you should always try to take the person who's best for the job. And I think Susan fits that bill. If anything, God forbid, were to happen to the governor, she could step right in there and take over. So I'm really excited about talking to her. But we're on different sides of the fence. I'm a Republican and she's a Democrat. But it doesn't mean that I can't go have coffee with my friend, right? And and we even talk politics too. And it's really kind of tough when your team isn't winning like you'd like them to, and your friend uh, she takes it easy on me. But if I get a little partisan, she'll put the spur in me, right, and remind me that her team got it done and won the seat, and that's how it is. So just do better, right? Um, so, anyways, that's a really fun interview to do. Tomorrow, I am going to be up at the Capitol. Um, and I don't know, I'll probably get there 9 or 10 o'clock. And I'm going to have my gimbal and my on-site streaming rig together, and I'm going to go seek out lawmakers and have short conversations with them just about what they hope to accomplish, what we have to look forward to, what their hopes and aspirations are, and start to kind of set the stage for this session, which starts with a lot of bills being proposed and the committee work that has to get done, as all our state reps and senators are assigned to different committees, and they review the legislation which is before them. They vote on it, and then the bills that are voted out of committee at the JF deadline go on to the floor potentially after the screening committee, which is where the majority party decides what goes to the floor. So when you're in control of the screening committee, it's a very powerful group which says, this bill needs to go back to environmental or fiscal, it needs a fiscal note. So that's done for this year. And they can do that on a partisan basis too, to push forward bills that they want to move and that they want to get passed for the majority party, right? That's the price you pay when you're not the majority party, is you don't get to say which bills are going to be called. I think we all know now that there's consequences to elections, and there's consequences to not having discussions about this stuff with each other. And when a good chunk of your party goes chasing the ex-president, that can be, Tim can't get on. Let me send him another. I'm going to pull out of here for 1 second, and I will be right back. 1 second. I am going to be right back momentarily, so hang Oh, sorry for that mishap there. The link that I sent Representative Tim Ackert is not working for some reason. And this is just one of those wonderful things that you get on a live broadcast that you do not want. So we'll give him a few seconds more here to get situated. I sent him a new link. I think getting back, I kind of lost where I was, but tomorrow I will be up around the LOB and the Capitol, and I will be reaching out to folks who want to come on and talk a little bit about their plans for this session. I hope that that this can be a platform for you to first, kind of hear about the issues of the day and the policies and what's happening in Connecticut politics. And, my screen is black. Still? All right, I'm going to back out of this and figure out what's going on. So I will be right back.